Welcome back to our Life Group Bible study in the book of Ruth. We're going to be in chapter 3 this evening. So if you have your Bibles with you, go ahead and turn there now. Before I get started reading, if you look at the notes, you'll see that they're kind of organized a little bit differently. Instead of just the points, I've kind of broken it down into 3 different things on how we can use this chapter as a how-to guide. And the first one is this, if you want to go ahead and write it down. This chapter is a great how-to guide on how to attract or manipulate a man. Now, guys, before you tune out for this chapter, please understand that you need to pay attention too. This is not just for the ladies, because while women might need to know how to attract or manipulate a man, you need to be aware of how women try to attract or manipulate you. So if it's the wrong woman, you can resist this temptation, all right? So let's look at chapter 3 now, starting with verse 1, and see how Naomi and Ruth plot against Boaz here. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you, so that you will be provided for. Boaz is a close relative of ours, and he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. Tonight he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. Now do as I tell you. Take a bath and put on perfume and dress in your nicest clothes. Then go to the threshing floor. But don't let Boaz see you until he has finished eating and drinking. Be sure to notice where he lies down, then go and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do." "I will do everything you say," Ruth replied. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. After Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he lay down at the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. All right, there's so much in here that we need to analyze. But the first thing I want you to notice here is Naomi says some very wise advice about how to attract a man through his senses, through his 5 senses. And the first one, you might think it's going to be the sense of sight, but I actually want to talk about the sense of smell. Because studies show that our sense of smell is actually stronger than our sense of sight, even for guys. It's many more times stronger than our sense of sight. And not only that, but our sense of smell is tied very strongly to our sense of emotions and also to our memory. And so when Naomi tells Ruth to put on perfume, there's a purpose here, all right? This smelling good is going to trigger something inside of Boaz that's going to help him remember and also bring on strong waves of emotion. But she's also taking care of the sense of sight here too, because she's taking a bath and she is also getting into her finest clothes. So she is all dolled up. She is ready to go, looking good for Boaz. But that doesn't end there. She's not just dressed up, but the timing of all this is key, because Naomi tells her to wait until after Boaz is completely fed and also has drinking his fill of wine. Why is this important? Well, if you've been around a guy when he's hangry, all right, when he's both hungry and angry, it's not fun to be around. Even the best men have a hard time keeping their cool and having patience when they are hungry. But when they are completely satisfied, their stomach is satisfied, they're drinking and feeling refreshed, that is the perfect time to ask them to do something. Now, I'm telling you, try this out. If you go and ask a guy to do something, whether it's can you borrow the credit card and go out on a shopping spree, or whether it's you have a to-do list that wants to be taken care of, as long as that to-do list doesn't necessitate him leaving the couch where he is right now and going and doing it immediately, he will probably say yes if he is in a relaxed position and he's fully fed and he's satisfied. That is the perfect time to ask a guy whether it's okay to go do something. Now, don't misuse that, all right? Don't abuse that knowledge, but that's just the case. When we are frustrated and tired or hungry, we don't want to say yes to anything. It's a no, and it's kind of the defenses are up. But when we're satisfied, it's much easier to say yes. All right, so again, Naomi knows this. I also think there's another key attribute here that we can't ignore, and that is it's taking place at night. And so at night, because all your senses are dulled, you can't see as well, it's just hard to walk about. Mostly our sense of sight is dulled, then all our other senses are heightened. And there's just kind of this electric feel at night when you don't have that sense of sight making things like every day. And so again, she's coming to him at night. So all these things are going on. And I've experienced this in my own life. It's interesting when one time I went down on a mission trip and I brought a girlfriend on this mission trip. Probably not the wisest idea to bring a girlfriend on a mission trip. It kind of maybe splits your focus a little bit. But it was actually very good because I got to see how this person worked, because this was a working mission trip. This wasn't just taking care of kids and kind of doing camp for them. This, which is also tiring and also work, but we were also building houses for the House of Hope. And so the styrofoam and mudding these houses and kind of like a cement that you cover them. So this is hard, dirty work out in the sun. So I saw that this woman, this girlfriend of mine, had work ethic. So I got to see this all week long, and how she really did work hard and work diligently. She worked well. She was great with kids. She was great with people. It was really eye-opening to see all these different things. But I remember at the end of the week, we had to spend a little time at a resort to end the week for all the hard work that we did. And this resort, everyone got to stay in decent rooms with decent showers. And I remember that my girlfriend, she got all dolled up that night that we were at the resort. She obviously took a shower. Her hair was clean. There was no mud all over her face and hands. She was wearing this beautiful sundress, and she just looked amazing. She smelled amazing. I remember taking a walk with her along the beach at night, and it was just surreal. It was like electricity in the air. I'm telling you, if I had a ring in my pocket, I would have got down on one knee right then and there and said, will you marry me? It was the kind of feeling I had, the kind of attraction, because of all these things that were going on. And these are the same things that Ruth now is coming to Boaz, basically asking him to provide her protection through marriage here. So this is a big deal. Also, though, the final element that we really need to pay attention to here is that she is coming down at his feet. And it was a sign of her requesting protection from him, but it's also a sense of devotion and a submission to his authority. It was very intimate here, but it was also a very humbling thing, and not in a negative way, but it was very much a humbling of herself before him. And that's something that is very attractive to men, that when you have someone that shows extreme respect and devotion to you. There's a very good book called Love and Respect that is a book on marriage that comes up with some great ideas and pulls from Scripture on how this idea that God created men to crave respect and women to crave love. And when there is a cycle of both giving love and respect, it's a beautiful thing that works in this dynamic. And so here, Ruth is showing this love and devotion and respect to Boaz by laying at his feet. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not encouraging women to be doormats, and that's not what guys want. Not good, godly men don't want doormats as spouses. But there is something about a strong, capable woman who is willing to show you devotion and respect and humility. It's the same way that women want a strong guy, one that is going to knock down walls and protect her and being willing to stand up for her and build her up. At the same time, is not such a thug and a brute that he can't be sensitive, he can't be caring, he can't be romantic. She also wants that. So it's a dual personality here where you are strong but also willing to serve and willing to show respect. And that is what she does so well with this part here. And so let's look at Boaz's reaction here now. This is verse 8. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant, Ruth," she replied. "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," Boaz exclaimed. "You are showing even more family loyalty now than you did before, for you have not gone after a younger man, whether rich or poor. Now don't worry about a thing, my daughter. I will do what is necessary, for everyone in town knows you are a virtuous woman. But while it's true I am one of your family redeemers, there is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. If he is willing to redeem you, very well, let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you myself. Now lie down here until morning." All right, so this is the second thing that I want to show, this chapter being a how-to guide for us. It's a how-to guide on how to pursue a marriage partner. And I'm going to pull for more than just this chapter, but I really think that Boaz and Ruth do some things the right way that we should take to heart here. The dating scene is so weird nowadays. If you go on dates and you kind of present your best self to this person, maybe at the restaurant, or maybe you go to Frankie's Fun Park or go to a movie, and you don't always get to know the person and who they really are in this dating scene. But you tend to fall for the person through their best image. They're putting on their best guys for you in this dating environment. So when you actually see them outside this dating environment, you kind of get more serious. You see how they work or how they live at home. Maybe they're messier than you would like. Maybe they have less respect than you would like. Maybe they're lazier than you would like. All these different things. But because you're so already committed through the dating scene and you've already fallen for this person, it's hard to pull back out even when you see warning signs. I don't know that's the best way about going about things. But Ruth and Boaz learn about each other outside of a dating environment. They actually see each other and become closer through a working relationship. And so Boaz sees how she works and sees her work ethic and sees her in the community and her faithfulness to her mother-in-law, and is attracted by those characteristics, how she really is outside of a dating relationship. And at the same time, Ruth sees Boaz as a good manager, as a good leader, as someone that is respected in the community and is very kind and generous and wise in his dealings with people. And she sees that and she's attracted to that, and by his kindness to her, and so they're kind to one another. And not only that, they also do a great job of building each other up. They encourage one another. Ruth shows tremendous respect to Boaz and tremendous gratitude and thankfulness. And in return, Boaz keeps building her up as this virtuous woman, this faithful woman who has a lot of integrity that all the community sees. Not just him. He says the whole city sees what you do for your mother-in-law and how you conduct yourself. And so they build each other up. And I just think there's some real value in becoming friends and getting to know someone outside of a dating relationship, but in working environment, and seeing how they live and how they work and how they interact with people before you're committed to doing these dates where you're putting out your best foot forward and maybe not presenting who you really are and how you really act. So they do it this way. But what is interesting in this whole aspect of marriage is, I've seen arranged marriages work. I've seen marriages work where people have dated for a really long time. I've seen people who are relatively compatible and similar. Those marriages work. And I've seen people who are opposites and that seem to attract to each other work in marriage. I've also seen all those things not work in marriage. So what is it that makes marriage work? I really believe that it comes down to a commitment to being faithful, a real commitment to being faithful. There's going to be issues in every marriage. You're going to find out things you don't like about the person. There's going to be fights. There's going to be squabbles. There's going to be issues. There's going to be hardships that come out from, not within the relationship, but outside, maybe financial pressure, maybe work stress, things that are going to happen, maybe losing a loved one that are going to affect the relationship. The key is not being with someone that always makes you feel great about yourself and always everything goes perfectly, but that you are committed to working on that relationship, that you are growing together, and primarily growing together through Christ. If you can have that commitment first with Christ, that you're committed to growing a relationship with Him, then everything else will take care of itself. But also you have to be committed to growing your relationship with your spouse. If there's ever a point where you stop that commitment and start pulling away from your spouse because you don't feel like you're getting your needs met, or you're not, or there's fights, or there's bitterness that is growing up and resentment that's growing up inside you, that's where the commitment falls apart, and that's where faithfulness falls apart. And here you have two very different people. An older man who grew up in Bethlehem, who is fairly wealthy and wise and respected, but has not found a woman for him, even despite his age. Then you have this young Moabite woman. She's a foreigner, all right? Doesn't know the customs very well, is just kind of new to this God, new to this community, who's very poor, has nothing, but she's very beautiful. So it's kind of an opposites attract situation, but what is similar here is they are both virtuous people with integrity, and they're committed. They make choices not based on feelings and extraneous things. They make decisions based on what is best for family and what they see is right in front of God. And so it really is a great how-to guide on how to pursue a marriage partner Pursue them for who they are and find out who they are as a person, working environment, life, all those kind of things, rather than just a dating environment. All right, but let's finish this chapter out. Verse 14. So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until the morning, but she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. For Boaz had said, "No one must know that a woman was here at the threshing floor." Then Boaz said to her, "Bring your cloak and spread it out." He measured 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and placed it on her back. Then he returned to the town. When Ruth went back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "What happened, my daughter?" Ruth told Naomi everything Boaz had done for her, and she added, "He gave me these 6 scoops of barley and said, 'Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then Naomi said to her, "Just be patient, my daughter, until we hear what happens. The man won't rest until he has settled things today." And here is the final point I want to make, the final thing we can use this chapter for as a how-to guide to do it God's way and not cut corners. This is a great example of how to do it God's way and not cut corners. And believe me, it would have been very tempting for Boaz to cut corners here. And no one really would have blamed him, because here you have a situation where a woman has come to him in the middle of the night. It is dark. He is on his land, his territory, his house. And she comes in and lays at his feet and basically says, "Marry me. I am yours. Take me." All right? It must have been incredibly tempting to take her right there. Here she is all dressed up. She's beautiful. She smells good. He's never seen her quite this amazingly beautiful and dressed up. And his heart had to be racing this time. And here she is in the middle of the night. And no one would have blamed him for marrying her. And it would have been a slight wrong to this family redeemer that was closer to him. Because understand, the policy at the time was the person who would redeem the widow would be the closest family member that could do it. And there was one man closer. And because of that, Boaz decided that he was going to wait and make sure to do it the right way so that all the community saw that he was a good, godly man with a lot of integrity and that he didn't cut any corners. It's amazing that he didn't take that opportunity, but he didn't. And it's very tempting for us as Christians to cut some corners. So many different areas of your life. It doesn't seem like big deals, but we often cut corners. Maybe you're a little bit late for work and you have good intentions. You want to be on time for work. You want to be someone that's consistent and on time. So you go a little faster than you should, and then you get pulled over. Consequences to cutting those corners. Or maybe you're doing your taxes and you know you drove for work, used your car for work a lot. The problem is you didn't take any of those receipts. You didn't keep track of those receipts, so you don't have the receipts, but you're like, I can get so much more money back if I just report how much mileage I use. So you put it in your taxes anyway, but you don't have receipts for it. And so when the IRS comes to audit, you're busted for cutting those corners. And lying is also a corner cutting thing. Lying is easy to do. And I'm not talking about bold-faced lies that just really hurt people, but it's almost the opposite, where you don't want to hurt people, so you tell little half-truths, or you just lie out of convenience, because you know that just saying a quick lie will make this person feel so much better, and you can just kind of move about your business because it becomes habitual. And sometimes when you tell people lies because you want their feelings not to be hurt, they find out the truth about how you feel from somebody else, and it's so much worse. It's always better just to tell the truth. And then, of course, the situation where we're dealing with Boaz and Ruth here, they know they're meant for each other here. They feel it strongly. They both want this. And it would have been so easy to jump on that night. And for a lot of couples, it's so easy when they feel like this person is the one. This guy, this girl, they're the one. And you know you're going to marry them. But you just don't want to wait to have sex until marriage. No one's waiting these days. Why wait that long? And you just want to make it happen. And so you give in that area. The problem with that, there's always consequences to sin. You hurt your relationship with God when you go down that path. You also open yourself up to other temptations and other sin. And whether you want to believe this or not, and whether you consciously think this or not, there's something in the back of your mind, both of your mind, when you open that door to premarital sex, that you start losing a little trust for that potential spouse. you know that this person was willing to commit sin and was willing to do the wrong thing to get what they want then. And there's a little bit in the back of your mind asking yourself, can I trust this person not to do the wrong thing with someone else when they really want it? And so God's way protects us from this negative thinking. God's way is all about protecting us in our mentality and our spirituality by not cutting corners. Boaz was a man of integrity and did not cut corners, and you're going to see the amazing blessing that comes from his life as a result of it. So I want to challenge you to examine your life and look at the ways that you potentially are cutting corners in your life. What are things that you can eliminate to improve your life as a person of integrity and to make sure that you are protecting yourself and grasping onto God's protection because you're not cutting corners and you're doing the right thing and you're doing it God's way. All right, well, that wraps up chapter 3. We only have one more chapter left of Ruth, so read ahead, read chapter 4, and we will tackle it next week.